Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on Happy St. Patrick's Day. What a great day. The Irish Green Derby, see, it won't show up on the screen. So you can't wear anything green when you're doing a show that's on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. You'll just disappear in the green screen. That's why you never see a leprechaun doing the weather. Who all see the leprechaun? Say, yeah! Dave Schultz down in Mobile is with us, and he is on special assignment, I believe, in the Crichton area of Mobile, looking for the leprechaun. And after, 15, 18 years, Dave Schultz is going to admit he was the one who came up with the artist rendering of the leprechaun in the tree in Crichton. God, maybe one of the greatest stories ever. A leprechaun. But it is St. Patrick's Day, day 2 of March Madness. And my wife, Mildred, asked me yesterday, how long does this last? I said, 3 weeks, man, 3 weeks. It's awesome. We'll also be joined by Doug Dean from Birmingham, from Legacy Arena, where he is camped out in a sleeping bag in a tent so he can get back in early tomorrow for Auburn's game and Alabama's game. I mean, incredible. A couple of, some great games yesterday. SEC, 4-1. Hour number 2, we'll also be joined by Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. And then Bo Carter out in Dallas-Fort Worth, Big 12, college basketball, the big picture. William Halliday, Billy Ray Valentine, the intern, will check in as well. 6 days a week. Follow us on Twitter at Sidelines_live. Let's get started with the Sultan of the Sunbelt, Q's Nation forever, who got stranded, it looked like, by those pictures, David.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I love snow. Now, you, having grown up in upstate New York, probably don't feel the same.
Yeah. Actually, I don't mind the snow. I don't mind the snow. I don't like the cold. But, just looking ahead, the way that the storm was coming in, I was leaving Tuesday, but not sure I was going to be able to get out. So Monday we changed plans, and it all worked out and got home safe and sound on Wednesday.
Well, while you were up there real quick, what was the general feeling among the Q's Nation?
Wow.
47 years Jim Boeheim was there. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a whole thing going on, right? So I guess I was still in Mobile when they lost and the new coach was hired. So that would have been Wednesday, right? So I was traveling Thursday, and that was the newspaper, right? But then they held a nice press conference on Friday. And, everything seemed to be copacetic. And then it hit the fan, right? Yeah. I mean, so the feeling was that as you dropped the ball and Boeheim explained that we needed to have a conversation, work out the contract. And he basically was going to say, if you see him maybe on the Dan Patrick show, that he was going to take blame, but he said it was everybody's fault. And he apologized for that. It was a 30-minute conversation that they should have had. He said the chancellor was out of town, so they didn't have it before the ACC tournament. And so they fixed that up. He had a nice goodbye. Adrian Autry had a nice hello, and it all worked out. And then it hit the fan when the local radio broadcaster, Brent Axe, who's been on the radio for basically 20 years, a couple of different stations. He's a local columnist. I've been doing it forever, so much so that I filled in for him before I was doing sports talk on a regular basis.
Wow.
And he got fired. And the owner of the station basically said, we're too negative and we need more positivity. And basically he said, Boeheim's a friend of mine. Boeheim's an owner of the station. I want more positivity. It kind of felt like Jim Boeheim on the way out the door had a local sports talk show host fired from the radio, is what it sounded like to me. And so it was a really interesting, 4 or 5 days up there. This got national exposure. Dan Wetzel, Pat Forty, Ross Dellinger, all were talking about it. Got made the New York Post. Obviously there's so many, Newhouse grads. I think he's a Newhouse grad. I don't know if Brent went to Syracuse. I think he did. But obviously all the Newhouse people that are in sports, all up in arms. So it was really an interesting few days to be there in Syracuse. But I mean, I don't remember Roy Danforth, right? So I'm 53. I'll be 54 in July. That's July 6th, Rob. Just to let you know. All right, mark
a great
that down.
birthday.
I don't remember the previous coach. So I grew up with Jim Boeheim. I went to Manley Fieldhouse. I saw them lose the last game to Georgetown. I saw the triple overtime win against Villanova. I saw Pearl's shot, half-court shot against Boston College. So, I grew up with Jim Boeheim, and it'll be a little bit different seeing somebody on the bench. But it's interesting, if I could, So he was competing with the Carnesecas, the Massiminos, and the John Thompsons, and coming up short. When people are talking about, he needed to go, they were talking about Boeheim needed to go a long time ago, right? His trip to the Final Four in Indiana, against Indiana, should have been praised, but because they blew it, and that was what Jim Boeheim was known for, blowing basketball games, right? Losing games that they should have won, right? They lost to St. John's in the Big East tournament. They lost to Georgetown in the Big East tournament, games that they should have won. And it took him a little bit of time. They had some violations, and he finally got the program together, and they got Carmelo. They win the championship, and had a good run in '96 when they went to the Final Four, losing to Kentucky. But it was a long time there that they needed to move on, and they never did. And so maybe he thought that people didn't appreciate him as much as they should have. I don't know. It was not a good couple years, right? I mean, Syracuse not going to the NCAA tournament. It's one thing when you're not competing. It's another thing. By the way, Rob, your haircuts never look better. It's one thing if you're not contending for a national championship. It's another thing not going to the NCAA tournament. And
exactly.
They had a good run a couple years ago with Buddy Boeheim, but just to be a below average ACC team is not where Syracuse is. And I got my own theory on what happened to the Orange. And it was a really interesting almost week up in Central New York, watching a legend step down, sort of kick somebody off to the side on his way out the door. So it was really interesting.
Well, for all the money and the importance basketball plays, in a place like Syracuse, they definitely underachieve. You would think, because they have the biggest crowd night in and night out. There's no excuse for it. And to think that free speech is in jeopardy in Syracuse today. Local sports radio.
That's that. And, we all. I'm not sure it's free speech. The owner of the business can do what he wants, right?
No, I understand that.
Right. He's not the first person to probably get fired for that. But could you imagine in New York if, they told the guys on WFAN, be nice to Zach Wilson, be nice to the Jets. Come on. Right. Same thing with the Giants, right? I think the Giants are on FAN. Can you imagine it? Be nice to Daniel Jones, don't say nothing bad about Daniel Jones. And, that is not worth the headache that, you would get in a major city. Whereas in Syracuse, Boeheim's kind of ruled the roost, right? He's had one attitude with the local media for a long time. He has another attitude with the national media, kind of back and forth, sarcastic. His press conferences, a few years ago, they're great. And he's a really smart guy. And he watches a ton of college basketball. So, he goes home after he watches his game on tape. He watches what everybody else is doing. So he watches a ton of basketball. And, if you ask him a question, he'll come in and wrap up the entire game in the press conference in 2 minutes. And then he's just really bright. He doesn't like to be questioned. He thinks everybody thinks that they know more than he does, which we don't, right? I admit that. Obviously he's been doing this a long time, really successful. But I get the feeling that he thinks that he was not appreciated as much as he should have been. And, I think he did a great job coaching, whereas, he's kind of on the bottom rung of the Bill Selfs and the Jay Wrights and the Mike Krzyzewskis, right? All these guys have had more success. But he's the one who built the program, right? All these other places, Kansas was always Kansas before Bill Self got there, right? Dean Smith basically bought, not bought, but, built Carolina. Duke was not great when Krzyzewski got there, but it had been a program before. And I know Syracuse went to the Final Four in 75, but for the most part, Boeheim built Syracuse, So I don't think he feels he's as appreciated as maybe he would like to be.
Well, he certainly stayed a long time, and he made Syracuse basketball and other people too.
Absolutely,
but as the face of it, relevant. I mean,
it was Big Monday, right? Kids like Stevie Thompson and LaFonso Ellis and all those guys out in California are coming home from high school watching Syracuse basketball at 4 p.m.
Yeah, that's what they did. And that Big East tournament at the Garden and Madison Square Garden. I mean, that as a Southerner, Auburn grad. We watched Monday nights, Big Monday.
Oh, sure.
That's what we did. And I remember 79. I always remember 1979, obviously for the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Indiana State, Michigan State matchup. But that's when John Thompson and Georgetown and the Big East really stepped into the national spotlight. And
that might have been the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Something like
that. But it was there before, I know.
I think the next year was the first year of the Big East. Georgetown closed out. Syracuse had like a 55, 57 game winning streak, home winning streak. I had never seen them lose a home game. Yeah. Right? Over 3 years. I'd never seen them lose a home game. They lost the last one. They blew a 20-point lead. Syracuse leading Georgetown by 20 at half. That's before Patrick Ewing. Probably Sleepy Floyd was on that team. So it was a few years before Patrick Ewing and those guys. But but that was the typical Boeheim game, up by 20 at half and blow it, and you lose the last game in Manley Fieldhouse. So that was the thing. For a long time, that was the thing with Jim Boeheim.
Trivia question. Do you remember where Eric Sleepy Floyd played his high school basketball? What town he's from?
I do not. No.
Gastonia, North Carolina. I just remember because that's how much of an impression that made on me as a young lad. I remember driving from Auburn to Atlanta to Charlotte to Roanoke to see my sister in Virginia, the Star City, of course. But you remember, I remember it so well the day Patrick Ewing announced he was going to Georgetown, Renge and Latin boys and girls school in Boston. And it just, but the power of that branding, man, and only an idiot savant. My dad's listening right now. He's like, boy, I don't know where you store all that stuff in your head, but it's there. But Dave, I'm going to tell you something. You're one of our favorite guests. Your knowledge, you are a Swiss Army knife because you can cover. You are so versatile and you're smart. Boeheim, give him his respect because he did so much. And you do. I know you do. But Syracuse basketball, good God, if you could have 30 and 35,000 at a basketball game, that's just nobody else in basketball does it. If they could, they would. That's just amazing. But let's move on to Legacy Arena. We had Tad Snyder on the show yesterday, executive director of the Birmingham Civic Arena and Legacy. Just fantastic setting there yesterday. He's like the impossible ticket. 4 out of 5 SEC teams won. And
shocker.
I know but the one that just absolutely, and my theory on Texas A&M is they fought so hard all year long to get respect and to get notoriety. They were burned out, but they got Penn State. They got beat by the Amish farm boys from Pennsylvania. I didn't know Penn State had a basketball team.
A&M comes up small again. Call me when A&M comes up big at any point in time. Their big win over the last couple of years has been, I guess they beat Alabama a couple of years ago, and they beat LSU earlier this. They beat LSU last year. But give A&M a chance to come up big, and they will come up small each and every time.
Yeah, and look,
in Nashville, Rob, they're going to be on the A&M bandwagon this year. You know it.
No,
it's coming.
No, not me. I was the one last year.
It's coming. It's coming.
I won't be on the bandwagon because I was saying
everybody
last year,
will. Right?
I
Watch them finish 4th.
I was worried about the NIL thing because of the sense of entitlement, what that was going to do to that freshman class, and I think people, A&M, we had Olin Buchanan from TexAgs.com on a couple of days ago.
He's awesome,
and
right?
he is awesome. And I think he's as frustrated as anybody. You just got to wonder. I think it's A&M. We hear, what do we hear? What's the first thing you hear about A&M is the money, the money, the money. That's like people that have 3 or 4 kids and they're worth $1 billion and none of the kids ever work. You know, they're born on home plate and thought they hit a grand slam. It doesn't matter. You got to have. They've got too much.
No, I don't buy that. You think there's not?
I think
effort
you have
being
too
put
much
in?
money.
No, I don't buy that.
I don't
buy that. I think that Jimbo Fisher is behind the times. I think his offense is behind the times. I think his defense is behind the times. That's what it is. Also, it should be mentioned, although he did have like top 5 recruiting classes, right? The last 2 recruiting classes are really, really good. You know, now you're going to have the recruiting class from 2 times ago is now going to be juniors, and now you got the big time recruiting class going to be sophomores. So maybe now, you know, they can contribute. Because you get conflated, right? Well, they got the number 1 recruiting class. They should be good. Well, no, those guys are just coming in. All right. Very few freshmen have an effect on a college football team, and especially a lot of them. So I don't think it's a lack of effort. I don't buy that A&M is soft. I just don't think their schemes are as good as others. Right now, we'll see if that changes, right? Jimbo's supposed to give it up, right?
Yeah.
Was Petrino the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, supposedly. That's what he is. Right. But look, we're about to take a break. Let me say this. Okay. What I meant was A&M, it's so nice. They need to get hungry. They need to get mean. You got to get tough, hard. But remember, close to 30 of the players off of A&M's roster last year, a lot of that number 1 class hit the transfer portal.
Well,
the National Winatorium. So I would be very careful with that. But Dave, I know you're on a tight schedule. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back quickly. Stay on as long as you can. Sidelines. Dave Schultz, remembering Jim Boeheim and Texas A&M. Where are they going next?
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
David Schultz down in Mobile, the Sultan of the Sunbelt, Q's Nation for life, a man who knows a lot.
By the way, Rob, you think that Auburn game would have been a little bit different if that game was played in Des Moines?
In Des Moines, I thought about that this morning. Home of the,
congrats to Auburn, but what a break that is for Auburn to be basically playing a home game. It's one thing if the number 1 seed in the land does, Alabama, but it's another thing when the 9 seed gets a home game. I mean, goodness, what a break! But they played well, but that may have been a different outcome if that game is played maybe anywhere else.
Well, the thing that scares you when you watch Auburn play is like the Alabama game and a few others. They had a 17-point lead against Bama in Tuscaloosa, lost in overtime. They go on these 7 and 8 minute scoring droughts. That's what'll kill you. But when we talked about it yesterday with Legacy Arena, having Alabama and Auburn in the same group, but they bid on that years ago. And the other thing is they're trying to get big crowds in there. The players
you couldn't play those games, right? It used to be you couldn't play within, like 60 miles or whatever it was. So Syracuse had to play in Albany, right? Syracuse used to play in the Dome. They used to have home games, right? And so now they moved them to Albany or Buffalo. And, I guess Tuscaloosa is a little bit closer to Birmingham than
47
Auburn
miles. 47. Auburn's 110.
Right. So, you used to not be able to do those things, but the NCAA goes, why would we do that? Let's put schools that are going to draw fans. Although, as I heard, Chris Stewart say, they're not spending money on hotel rooms, so they can spend money on the tickets because they can commute, right? So it's it's a good job for Alabama and Auburn fans, right? They go back to work today. They're missing one day of work, and Auburn fans not missing any days of work. That game was last night.
Well, this is what always gets me about it. There are Auburn fans in Auburn, but they're everywhere. They're Birmingham. I mean, my God, it's full of Auburn and Alabama fans. I mean, it's all it is pretty much. And so, and then Atlanta, Auburn plays in Atlanta. It's a home game. That's Auburn's second largest outside of the state of Alabama. Atlanta is Auburn's largest alumni base in the country. And then you got Tampa, St. Pete, football, the big one. Yeah. But people always will say, how far is it for the Auburn fans to travel? They're coming from everywhere. Like Alabama fans, Tuscaloosa, but also in Birmingham. But it's the Iowa fans, the Houston fans, the other schools fans that are buying hotel rooms. But short stays. Short stays, I might add, for half of those 8 teams. It was a one-nighter. Maybe they stay. Maybe they probably did a 2-night minimum, didn't they, Dave?
I don't know how that works. But if you're coming and if you're coming for a Thursday game, unless you're driving, right? I mean, that's a long drive. I did the drive from Louisville to Mobile, and that was long. Wouldn't you just stay for the basketball? Just go check out Birmingham if you're from Iowa and you've never been, right? Let's go. Let's go enjoy. Although the weather's coming through, they're going to enjoy Birmingham today because the weather's coming through. So we'll see how that goes. But just enjoy Birmingham. Check it out. Plenty to do there, right?
A lot of great restaurants, a lot of fun stuff to do in Birmingham.
And then you got an off day today and get basketball tomorrow. I'm sure some people got to go home, but others are, we're here. Let's just, let's enjoy the South for a couple of days that we don't normally get.
No, I'll tell you right now, up in Park,
and you get to see the number 1 team in the nation.
It's cold up here. The wind was so strong last night, it blew open a door that I had not closed properly. I mean, I'm 30 minutes from Memphis, where we're over here at the farm right now doing the show, but I'm going back into Memphis here right after the show. But
you got a better barber by the farm, I'll say that.
But let me tell you something. Look, St. Patrick's Day, it's going to be a wild day. Day 2 of March Madness. And you talk about I think it's when you have those sterile atmospheres where you can't have any local flavor, that kills crowds. That's why the NCAA, someone yesterday on our show talked about the pods that allows them to bring, Alabama 47 miles from Birmingham, Auburn 100. But again, they're already Auburn fans saturated and Alabama fans in Birmingham, Huntsville. Sure. I mean, they're everywhere. The fact that it's in the state, if Auburn or Alabama.
But if once you get the upsets going, right? I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Everyone outside of Houston fans are going to be rooting for Auburn, right? Yeah. So anybody who's left watching that game, everyone's going to be rooting for Auburn. It's not because outside of the Alabama fans, right? Because they want to see the upset. They want to see the number 1 team go down. So when Princeton is winning and Furman is winning, those teams get all of the other fan bases to root for them because they want to see an upset, right? I mean, Tennessee survived last night, but certainly you heard Raging Cajun fans going nuts, and I'm sure everybody, other than Tennessee fans, were rooting against Tennessee. So I understand what you're saying by sterile, and if you get a lot of blowouts, then it's one thing. But if you get some close ball games, and people are excited to see the upsets.
Well, you know what? Watching the basketball games, the crowds, in Birmingham, we had, again, Tad Snyder on yesterday. Said it's the impossible ticket. They sold all the tickets. Now, not everybody can get
in Auburn. I'm sure most of the tickets were sold anyways.
Yeah, and the street brokers, there's nothing like the great ticket scalper tradition in the state of Alabama where it is legal.
So I'm sure the tickets, I'm sure most of the tickets were sold anyways, and then throw Auburn and Alabama in there, and now you can't find them at all. So.
Yeah. I mean, Dave, I know we just got like about a minute left before you've got to get moving. I know you got to go to rehab for your wrist injury today.
Wrist.
But
yeah, I got a little
let's get you
tendonitis.
back on next week.
Okay.
Yeah. What is that from playing tennis?
Yeah.
Are you a
don't
tennis
wanna know
player?
where it's from. You know,
Okay.
maybe I moved an exercise bike. Maybe I did it that way. That just occurred to me, but I think I'm not kidding you when I said I may have heard it trying to open up a bottle of Diet green tea. I'm not kidding.
There you go. Well, you're on the mend, but
Those
listen,
Lipton guys
tell people
screw those lids on
how they
tight.
can. Yeah, how can people follow you? Because you do so much great work, and you've got a great podcast as well.
Well, we're at Schultz Cast. You can see my name there just with a Y and a cast. We're doing Lockdown Sunbelt. After rehab today, we're heading out to, weather permitting, heading out to South Alabama for their spring ball, right? Georgia State, by the way, is done with spring practice. South Alabama is opening up spring practice today. So we'll head out there and see if I can get Craig Stevenson on, the writer, on to come on for Monday to recap, the weekend. We got today and tomorrow for South Alabama's practice. So we'll be doing that. We had a huge, we had more people watching, Lockdown Sunbelt when the game was going up against the Volunteers. So we appreciate all the Tennessee fans that came to watch and really do appreciate it. We've increased the subscribers by more than 100% over the last 3 weeks. So hopefully that can continue. A lot of spring football. We got baseball, a couple of coaching changes in the Sun Belt. Arkansas State let their coach go, and Georgia Southern hired an Alabama assistant for their head coaching position. So we'll try to get him on when maybe he can catch his breath a little bit. Maybe next week. We'll see. But we'd really appreciate you having us back on, Rob. I know my schedule didn't exactly line up last week.
Look, let's do it again next week. We're ready for it. It is March Madness. As my wife Audrey said, I am so excited for the next 3 weeks. All these games on TV. You can't get any better than that.
Well, and tell her it calms down, next week, right?
Yeah.
They're not on all day. They're just on at night next week.
All right. Be careful out there. I'll tell Mildred.
Thanks, Rob.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Dave Schultz, the Sultan of the Sun Belt. Now we're going to the man.
Oh, you let Schultz get away.
Well, he had to go to rehab for his wrist injury, and he told me, he goes, I got about 20 minutes, so I'm trying to keep him on schedule because, man, we were having some fun. He got stranded in the snow up in Syracuse when he went back home, and God bless. I mean, it could have been a planes, trains, and automobiles episode to get him back, but it got the snow cleared, and he made it back. Doug, what a deal last night, man.
It's crazy.
I mean, that was really cool. I'll let you take it from here. Batter up. Here he is, Doug Dean, AU Dose, our man on the streets, the ambassador of the city of Birmingham. Next to the Vulcan, he's the best ambassador they've got.
Vulcan, moon over Homewood, they like to say. I think they finally got some britches for the Vulcan statue. He was mooning
some clam diggers.
Yeah. Listen, thanks for having me on a rainy Friday. And you remember the great Jim Fife when an Auburn player would have a slam dunk. Hello, Birmingham, Alabama.
Hello, Brantley, Alabama.
Yeah, well, that was a slam dunk yesterday for the city of Birmingham. Let me start with that. In so many cities across the country, just the economic impact of this March Madness event. I used to be cynical about why I have 64 teams. Goodness gracious, does the regular season matter at all? I'm the opposite now. Let 100 of them play.
It's just unreal. I'm with you.
But I was going to ask Dave. I'm sure, Dave, that you had Furman and Princeton both advancing out of the first round yesterday.
You know what? In one of my brackets, I picked Princeton to beat Arizona because I said they're going to slow it down, and Power 5 teams like that hate that kind of basketball. And I was right. That was on my sidelines bracket. I picked it 3 minutes before the tip-off.
Well,
I mean, scrambling.
There was some hemorrhaging on almost all of our brackets yesterday, and I feel terrible, Rob. I'm going to have to be contrite and maybe give her a gift card to go buy some bling or something. But my youngest daughter, Hannah, a.k.a. the Great Spud, that's another long story how she got that nickname. But she was asking my opinion, which was the first mistake she made, Wednesday night about her bracket. And she said, Dad, I've just got this feeling about Furman. I said, Hannah, I get it, but, it's just so hard to pick against what are they, a 3 or 4 seed, UVA 4 seed. And she talked herself out of her own instinct with a little stupid help from Daddy. But that's what we all enjoy, this March Madness. I got to tell you, Rob, that was my first ever, shame on me, March Madness game to get to take in person. And that Legacy Arena was lit because of the nature of after session 1, they flush everybody out and the fans have to re-enter. That slows down entrance. So the upper level was packed to the gills, and then the lower level took a little longer to fill out because I'm sure some people, I think you texted me, some people buy all sessions and they may not want to go to an Auburn or Iowa game, but by 10 minutes left in the first half, it was packed to the gills and loud.
Yeah. You there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. No, but it did it was really loud, but obviously the night sessions are better when you play in the middle of the day. But, we have a lot of national holidays. Okay. It seems like nowadays everybody has their month. Just make March basketball month and we celebrate it. And people just, get some paid days off to go to the tournament. I mean, that for the city of Birmingham and the aerial shots they had, that was great. I mean, that reminded me of all the football games I've been to over the years in Birmingham with the Goodyear blimp up in the air. But people were so ready to get there and get all that stuff started. I just thought the whole thing was, for the city of Birmingham, they've got to be happy.
Yeah, and just to look quickly on a game, everybody has access to the same analysis and opinions, but this is a local flavor. Alabama did what we knew they would. They got a little bit of a test for a minute against Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, but even with Brandon Miller having a tough game, not scoring, I think they limited his minutes because of Oates would say, I think Tracy Wolfson tweeted that there was a minor groin injury, that those can be nagging. So I'm sure they were being smart to have him at full go for Maryland tomorrow night. That's, by the way, you may have reported it, Auburn, Houston. That should be one hell of a game as it's shaping up. I wouldn't have said that a week ago, but Houston's dinged up a little themselves. A little bit telling to me that Kelvin Sampson needs some cheese with his wine about having to play Auburn in what I guess will be a home flavor. You have to wonder about Iron Bowl impact on that. I would not fault any fan that shows up and would rather their arch rival not win, but that's going to be a subplot to watch. And then Auburn, gosh, much maligned for the close losses and spotty guard play, but last night all they did was show up. And you have an unexpected hero or two. I didn't see it coming that Trey Donaldson would find a stroke. And that was a 5-minute stretch there where he just exploded, with props to Flanagan for finding him and kicking out. And then when he hit that third straight 3-point shot, the arena, I don't know if you could tell on TV, exploded. And I think that won the game for Auburn, even though Iowa made a run and got it within 4 points later.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The only thing that would have been better is if Joe Dean and Tom Hammond were calling that game. And Joe Dean would have been saying, Trey Donaldson, the freshman from Tallahassee, string music downtown Birmingham, Alabama, Legacy, Stufferino, Jalen Williams.
You can do it. I miss old Joe Dean. And,
God, I miss
his son, Joe Dean Jr., I just love some of the calls he made. He got it honest, didn't he? His ability to bring passion and emotion into a call. Auburn and Alabama and Auburn both were lucky to have what I consider the ace crew Raftery, Jim Nance, who I think this is his last year he's calling games, with I guess the exception of the Masters tournament. And then Grant Hill, I liked his work. Tracy Wolfson's probably my favorite on the sideline. Like her, she's so classy.
She's so cool.
There's a meme, a hilarious meme of Bruce Pearl. I bet you've seen that. He's playing a harp. And the message is string music. Quite a game. And I do think sometimes you have a team that they're undervalued, Rob, because they've had some tough losses. You bow out the first game in Nashville, and all of a sudden you give them a little break, and everything is fresh again, when Green would say, and that something happens mentally, and they can be dangerous. I think I'm not saying they'll beat Houston, because Houston's a better team.
Hold that thought, because we're going to come back. We got Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Mark Hamm coming in with us. We're going to have our own version of a string music symphony on Sidelines. All right, we got, looks like the witness protection program there. Here we got Doug Dean on the far right, Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report up in Knoxville in the witness protection program. Because when you come on StreamYard on the video portion of Sidelines, if you don't have your video up there where we can't see you, we'll say you're in the witness protection program, but we're not going to give you that voice where you go, I was not an animal. But anyway, Doug Dean, quick question. And Mark Hamm's going to get in here with us because his Vols won last night. Mildred's over here doing the Vol dance. She's got her clogging shoes on. But I got to ask you this. It is Lent. It is Friday. After this show, we're going to Memphis to Calvary Episcopal Church for the waffle shop. They have it about 800-900 people a day coming through there all through Lent except for Holy Week. Audrey just said to me, she goes, what are you going to eat today? You can't have meat. Being St. Patrick's Day, is there a special dispensation from the local bishop allowing you to eat bangers and mash, an Irish traditional dish of sausage links and mashed potatoes with your beer? Go ahead.
Sorry. I, as a cradle Catholic like you, Rob, I've reached out to the Holy Father, and I can report that we have dispensation for as up to maximum 8 ounces of red meat today, since it's St. Patty's Day, and all the beer that the law will allow, but just be safe about it.
Okay.
My sacrifice would probably be lobster and maybe some black and red fish today, Rob.
Yeah, I'm getting fish pudding. It's really good. Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Get on here with Doug Dean, AU Dose in Birmingham. Mark, I know you stayed up late last night. Bob Marlin and the Ragin' Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette played Tennessee a hell of a game, 58-55. Big Orange wins. Color this one in orange and white. Let's talk about it, Mark. It's March Madness. Is anything getting done in American business? It's a bigger distraction than TikTok, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is. I mean, I hope they're doing something about this banking crisis. But besides that, I don't know that much is getting done. But I'll say, yeah, it was a good win by the Balls. I mean, we were out of starting point guard that got hurt. So, we always seem to play pretty well during the season. But Rick Barnes, Achilles heels, we get into the tournament. We don't make a long run there. But, yeah, it was a good game, tough game. But, hey, they got a W.
Hey, this just came in real quick. I mean, from David Baker, one of our loyal listeners. Bishop David of our diocese here in the Memphis, West Tennessee diocese made a statement that you can eat meat today, but should use another day this week to abstain. Bishop David Talley. So along the lines of what Doug Dean said from our fair city of Birmingham, the Magic City. There we go. All right, Mark, looking at Tennessee, looking at Auburn and Missouri and Alabama, they're all still in the tournament. A&M is not. You got a matchup now.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. Did you? Duke, you're playing Duke. How cool is that? And are you going?
No, I'm not going. I'm going to be here watching it because, again, I always get a little nervous about, what happens with Tennessee in the tournament. But, yeah, it's going to be a good game. I mean, I don't know. We have a lot of great athletes, and we've got a lot of five-star guys, and I think a lot of those guys stepped up last night. But I think, we really go with what our guard does, Vescovi. I mean, the guy is, if he's hot and he's shooting the ball well, we seem to win. If he's not hitting those three-pointers or shooting well, we seem to lose. So I think it all kind of seems to be on his shoulders, unfortunately. But that seems like a lot of our losses. He has not had good games.
Yeah. Well, Doug, I like the way you break it down. Both Mark, you and Doug are both in healthcare. You understand that industry. A lot of thinking involved, a lot of planning. Doug, did you plan on Auburn playing? Nobody saw this coming. Playing in Birmingham, Legacy Arena. I think people thought Auburn would be out in Sacramento or somewhere. What I was most impressed with last night was Auburn when they blew that 7. Give Iowa credit.
Oh, yeah. Lost your audio, Rob. I'm not hearing you, Rob. I guess I'll answer the question I think you asked. And this time of year, you don't hear people who are analyzing their brackets or March Madness talk much about the element of luck, the element of good fortune. And Furman needed the good fortune. Can you believe this? Of a very experienced UVA guard to make an absolutely mindless decision when he was trapped. He had a timeout in his back pocket, and he just hurls the ball toward midcourt, allowing Furman to steal that, dish the ball to a shooter who drains a three. And that was skill and effort on Furman's part to even be in that position. But it was luck that, they had the pressure of the moment. The trap caused a veteran guard. We always talk about, bet on the older guys and experience, but sometimes even the experienced players can lose their mind. In your case of Auburn, you need some luck. Who saw it coming that the committee would see fit to send you to Birmingham and about as close to a home environment? And I'm sympathetic to a point with Kelvin Sampson's complaint, but he fails to mention that if he just wins, he gets the Final Four in his own hometown of Houston. So give me a break.
Yeah, exactly. And Mark, I mean, look, it's bad enough when women whine, but when men do, it's really bad.
Well, that is true. That is true. But, when it comes to sports, I think that's where a lot of men whine. I mean, Nick Saban was whining this week about having to play Tennessee, every year. So, if he's going to whine about that, then the GOAT's going to whine. I guess it's okay for all men to whine, right?
Mark, Did you notice that Saban was not whining about playing the Vols prior to last year?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. When you have a 15-win streak, I think, he wanted Tennessee and Vandy and I don't know who else, Missouri, I think is his 3. But yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I personally like, you should embrace playing the very best. And I know there are people saying Houston's lost one of their star players. Hey, they got a loaded roster. What jumped out at me when I watched them play last night is those guys, the size of those guys' legs. This isn't Phi Slamma Jamma, but it's a hell of a roster, guys.
Oh yeah, Auburn's going to have their hands full, and I'm really happy for Tennessee. I want to tell you, since we're both on air, Mark, one of the most classy moments that I greatly enjoyed. I'm sure you saw it when Tennessee comes to Auburn, and Auburn absolutely had to have that win, and it was not going to be easy even at home. But somebody's shooting a foul shot, and you see Vescovi, who's probably my favorite guard in the whole SEC this year, and there's some good ones. And he and Browne and he and KD Johnson are just talking politely to each other. They're not in each other's face. They respect fellow Warriors.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have more moments like that.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Mark, I'm with him. And you said you see Coach Barnes a lot in your morning walks. I mean, I know you knock out about 15 miles, but he is one of the most likable coaches around. And he's the third or fourth winnings. But I'm with Doug. Hell, I'm as intense as anybody. And I love Mallory. She went to Alabama. She's still a good person. But competition is competition. But good sportsmanship really stands out. When people give people always, I love to see them when they give people credit or pick them up after getting knocked down on the ground. We don't see the fights and the stuff, Mark, that we did 15, 20 years ago, do we? I don't see it much.
No, it's interesting because we live in a day and age where, can you hear me?
Mark, Doug.
I can hear.
Well, yeah, we lost the audio. But I don't see the fights there. I don't see it. Mark, Doug, are you hearing me?
I hear you and Mark.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay.
No, what I was going to say is,
in
today's age, day and age,
Doug,
it seems like.
Go ahead, Doug. Can you hear me?
Rob, if you can hear me, Mark, I'm getting Mark's audio. It's just on your end.
Okay. I'll also say in today's age, it seems like, in the world we live in, especially when we look at NBA and NFL and different things. I know we're talking about college, but it seems like everything is about themselves, right? I mean, everybody's, about themselves and showboating and that kind of thing. So to see people that actually, have, really respect for each other and don't do that, I think that's really good for the game. I'm so over all this showboating and, just all the things that are out there. I mean, you guys understand what I'm talking about. It's better just to go out and play the game and then, be respectful to each other.
Yeah. Rob, I got to share a funny. Can you hear me, Rob? I'm a roll on because Rob's got audio problems on his end. Apparently, there was a funny moment where I sat in Legacy Arena last night. I had two Kentucky fans sitting directly behind me, younger guys, really classy. They had their UK shirts on, and I was so disoriented why they were heartily pulling for the Auburn Tigers in that game. It couldn't be because of any for Iowa. And then it came to light as we sat there that they had taken the Auburn to win and the over for not a small amount of dinero. And they're watching scores of both teams, and Auburn finally got on a scoring run that burst in the second half. And those guys were celebrating, but then they had to Auburn had to hold on and win. They had already gotten the over, and it was hilarious to see two Wildcat fans, because of money, yell War Eagle early and often.
Well, Mark and Doug, the $1 million question that everybody's asking is, Auburn plays the early game at 6 Saturday night at Legacy Arena. Will the Auburn fans stick around to pull for the Bama fans? And will the Bama fans get there early to pull for Auburn? But this is what's so funny.
You can't be serious.
Well, yeah, but think about how many of us are married to, like, Audrey's a ball for life, okay? Mallory is Alabama. My other three kids, their blood is burnt orange and navy blue, okay? Everybody in my family is. But how many of us have Alabama spouses, kids, whatever? That's where I think it may happen. But somebody like Joe from Red Bay or something, I don't see him coming in there and pulling. But stranger things have happened. But you know what? You can't. It's all speculation. But the atmosphere at these games, if you notice, as you climb the wall, it gets so much more intense. Every play is like a putt in the back nine, amen corner at Augusta in the Masters, isn't it?
Go ahead, Mark.
No, I agree with that. I think, I mean, it's at the end of the day, I learned a long time ago, especially when Tennessee football has been terrible for years. You're dealing with a bunch of 18 and 22-year-old kids. Well, sometimes, if you're Stetson Bennett, you're 45, but you've got these kids that are out there that are becoming young men, but they're 18 to 22, and if you allow those people to ruin your day, you just need to kind of sit back and rethink things. And that's something I had to do years ago, to the point to where, and I know some of these kids that actually, played at UT, and, look, when they're out there in August and they're running hills and rolling around tires and, working out, who wants to win worse than they do? They want to win because they're the ones that put the work in. We're just up there drinking beer in the stand. So, for me, I love it, and I'm glad when your team wins. But I've also learned to not let it ruin my day. It's disappointing, and you get upset. But they're doing their best, and they want to win worse than I do because I'm not out there putting in all the work.
Yeah, and Mark, great take, and I'll say this too: there's a simple but powerful axiom that fans and a little more serious writers and analysts, broadcasters like us, should always remind ourselves the other guy is trying to win too. And honestly, I walked out of the arena with a couple of really nice, classy Iowa fans, and I didn't say it to them, but I sort of feel for somebody that puts in that kind of travel and doesn't get to enjoy, a big win. But what I told them was that their team was fun to watch because I would argue to an extent here in the SEC, we've definitely got the elite athletes and with speed and size and strength and agility when we play basketball. But it was fun to watch an Iowa team, incredibly disciplined, hardly ever turns the ball over, and just really plays basketball the way it was invented long ago. And that was fun to watch. And I would probably deserve better. Auburn just got hot at the right time with the help of a big crowd.
I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. And I'm with you on Iowa. I've grown up listening to Iowa games on WHO AM 1040 out of Des Moines. And you know what? Auburn just out-athleted them and had the better speed and whatever. But Matt Dean, who's on our show a lot, and my friend, he's a Hawkeye from birth. He's from right outside of Des Moines, Davenport, Iowa, which is the Quad Cities. He's from Davenport, but absolutely loves his Hawkeyes. Of course, he's at Rhodes College in Memphis. Got a son on the staff with Dan Lanning, coaching up at Oregon, but lifelong Hawkeye. And I did win that bet yesterday. You know what I won, Mark and Doug? And you can appreciate it because I have these restaurants in your hometown. I won a steamer pack of Crystals and a 30 rack of Hamm's beer. You can't get much better than that.
You should have made it Milo's Burgers, Rob.
Well, we don't have Milo's. 24 Milo's Burgers. I would run to Birmingham right now if I could do it. I love Milo's. I'm starting to see people on social media. Some guy, Depressed Bob Kessling is his Twitter handle, had a picture yesterday, and it said of a Milo's, and he goes, I didn't know there was a Milo's restaurant for real. And I said, get in there while you can before they run out of ground beef. I love it.
Hey, Rob, can I comment on the question of how does Iron Bowl mania play in?
Hold 1 second. We're going to go to a break. Mark, hang on with us. Doug Dean, because Doug, hang on to your question because I've got ADD and I might forget it, but we're going to take the break right now. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody, from West Vance. It's Mildred. Be right back.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn. Just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
He's back.
Okay, Rob Browne back here with you. I'll tell you one thing. What a day we are having with the technical gremlins. Mark Hamm to the far right, if you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and the Witness Protection Program. Doug Dean, Birmingham. Rob Browne here from Lee Hall, the Cherry Farm, and cold and windy. Mark, you and Doug have both been to the Cherry Farm. That wind was coming across the prairie off Crowley's Ridge last night. About 2:17 this morning, it blew the door open in the bedroom off the big porch of the veranda, blew it open, slammed the other door shut, and knocked off that door knocker of the guy's head, and just boom. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And as they say, my grandmother in Middle Tennessee used to call him a storm came through, a storm. But let's get back, Doug. You were telling a great story before the break. Let's go.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on the whole CBS. It's good fodder for CBS. Their job is to create drama and intrigue and interest. And I think that as a witness who was in Legacy Arena last night, the whole notion that our arch rival fan base would show up and become Hawkeye fans for 2 hours, it just was not in evidence at all. Now, there can be different reasons for that. They got to see their team roll big earlier in the day. But now, Saturday night, which, by the way, Saturday is Bruce Pearl's birthday. How serendipitous is that? I have a feeling that will be known to his team in the pregame. But I think you could see a little different situation, because it would stand to reason a lot of Bama fans, with the year they're having, gobbled up Session 3, that's Saturday, those two games tickets, because they knew as a 1 seed they would advance. And so what will be interesting to see is Auburn gets the first game at 6:10. Auburn will have their share of people in the arena. Houston will too, a little bit. And the question will be, do Auburn fans stick around if they're allowed after that? I doubt it. A few may. Or do Alabama fans come early? And I just will be surprised if that's a very noticeable factor at all.
Well, and Mark and Doug, I'll say this, and Bo Carter's about to join us from out in Dallas from the Big 12, home of the Big 12 office, and he's a native of Sheffield, Alabama. He can probably weigh in on this. I can tell you this. I'm an Auburn grad. My dad is, my son Wilson, third generation. The Alabama fans that I know, my good Alabama friends, they would be, I mean, they're not, I don't know. Maybe they're good people. So I have a skewed, they're not the kind of people who are going to go there and would be cheering for that other team. Maybe not in front of me, but maybe privately they are. But at the end of the day, it's great for the state of Alabama, for the city of Birmingham. And Mark, in the words of LA motorist Rodney King, can't we all get along? I mean, what, and we have Bo Carter looking in, the wise Sooth, former sports information director at Mississippi State, the Southwest Conference office, Big 12 office, now a National Football Foundation writer, Baseball Writers of America is going to join us. But Mark, what do you think? Tennessee and Vanderbilt fans, can't we all get along? I mean, would you? Could you? Do you?
Well, I don't really. I don't think Vanderbilt's really a rival at this point. I'm not sure why they're even in the SEC.
I knew you'd say that.
But
Bo Carter's a Vanderbilt graduate.
That's right. That's okay.
Well, okay. So I'll do it. My apologies there. You have a better degree. You have a better degree, and you're smarter than anyone on the phone.
No.
But I would say, no, it's difficult, right? It's difficult to pull for the other. But then you get into the whole, okay, I'm going to pull for the SEC, right? Especially when you get to the end, just like with Georgia and the national championship for football. Even though I have a daughter that's in Georgia, of all places, it's very difficult to pull for them. I mean, it just really is. So you have, just like Bo, if you went to Mississippi State, I'm sure you pull for Ole Miss, and everything they do. It's just one of those things. It's really hard to do. You really just don't want them to win. You really want them to go home early. But if they get to the Final Four, the question becomes, okay, if you got an SEC team in the Final Four and it's Auburn or it's Alabama, I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to pull for them secretly, or are you going to pull for them, outright? I mean, I don't know. It's that very love-hate relationship. Look, I have a fantasy football league I'm in, and it's an SEC fantasy football league. It's very unique for college football. And, I had, who was my quarterback this year? I had an Alabama quarterback, Bryce Young. I had, a running back from Florida. So, you find yourselves pulling for people, at least in that particular situation, because you want bragging rights. But, any other time, there is no way in hell I would ever pull for a quarterback from, Alabama or Georgia or whoever. But in that particular situation, you do. And I think, you mentioned earlier, Doug, about the guys that if you're betting on sports, you're going to pull for, who's going to make you money. But
That's right.
As far as, do you really want to pull for them? Do you like them? The answer is no. But then do you pull for the SEC? I mean, do you really pull for the SEC at the end?
Mark, great point. The only thing I got to cut out in a minute, Rob, but the only thing I would say, and this is just one data point, but it sticks in the memory. January 2011, Auburn's getting ready to play Oregon for all the marbles. And in Birmingham, Alabama, you could see neon yellow and green shirts that said "Roll Ducks, Roll."
Yeah.
That's your answer to and Auburn would probably be no different, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. I'm going to beat everybody to the punch. What he just said about what fantasy football, who you pull for. Politics and fantasy football make for strange bedfellows. I had to say it. I also have to say, Doug and Mark, I got to say it because Bo's calling from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, otherwise known as the Metroplex. I got to say it. But Bo, you are the wise man, the scholar, the great orator. You've been, I like the term sports information director. Doug has a similar job where he works in Birmingham. Communication. Mark is in, healthcare as well. Getting the message out is so important. I was introduced to Tad Snyder and Dennis Latham at Legacy Arena there in Birmingham. They came on the show, Tad did yesterday. Late last night at 12:42 a.m. this morning. That guy, that's pretty cool of him. He let me know that the tip-off times of the Auburn and the Alabama games on Saturday, because my son Wilson in Charlotte is trying to figure out how to get down there or to get to Kansas City. But man, what goes on behind the scenes to put an event like this on? And Doug, man, I know you got a tight schedule, but Mark, I know you're going to hang on with us for the second hour roundtable, and Doug, you're welcome to as well. But
I got to cut out. Wish you guys a great
Doug.
March Madness.
Have a good
one.
one.
Doug, thank you so much. We'll be talking in the morning. But Bo, what goes on behind the scenes that the average fan out there doesn't know about, doesn't appreciate, to make something like an NCAA first and second round event occur? It isn't just one person. It's got it's probably in the hundreds, maybe even the thousands, isn't it?
It's amazing, Robbie. It starts like even a year before they have the NCAA will have on-site meetings with the host group, which I guess I think the SEC actually is the host entity for it this year. I don't think it's UAB. They always have one collegiate related group that does it. You've got probably a group of 75 to 100 volunteers, passing out stats, standing in the doorway, greeting people when they come in. It's really in Mark, it's quite a deal. I was going to tell Doug Dean, please don't tear down Legion Field. That's what we're going to try to get a preserved Legion Field deal here, as far as that goes.
Well,
but,
you know what? Every time you're in Birmingham, and Mark, from going to games at Legion Field, Tennessee, Alabama over the years, it is the old gray lady. When you're up at the club up on the mountain in Birmingham for some event or whatever, I'm not a member, but I go to a lot of events that are there. There's just this magnetic attraction. You pull to the left, over there on Graymont, and the Tiger and Tide liquor store, and parking over there around Birmingham Southern, $20, $30, but your car, your truck, mine, I never got broken into in all those years. Birmingham's a cool city. And Mark, as a Tennessee fan, whether you're an Ole Miss fan, Mississippi State, whatever, Birmingham is centrally located right in the middle of the conference. Golly, man, you think about it, putting on an event. And Mark, have you been to an NCAA basketball game during March Madness before anywhere, somewhere?
Yeah, I have. I mean, when I was growing up in Memphis, I went, and then that was years ago, obviously. And then Tennessee actually every now and then, has a tournament up here, or at least, for the first or second round. So, I've been to Thompson Bowling for a few of those as well. And it's exciting, and I tell you what I like is when you see the fans from the other schools that travel all that distance. I mean, they really, really are into their team, and it's fun to watch them.
Yeah, and like I said, Matt Dean, who's a strong part of our Sidelines team, because it ain't just me, and it's not just one person; it's an entire group. And he's a Hawkeye fan, and he loves his Hawkeyes. And he's coached women's basketball 16 years. Whatever level you're coaching at, there is a tight-knit fraternity, Bo, among these coaches. And you've probably worked some of these big events. I know David Housel for years was kind of the coordinator at the Final Four. What are some of your greatest memories of NCAA March Madness? Because Paul Feinbaum put out on Twitter a couple of days ago, what's your favorite memory of the NCAA, favorite moment? I said, day one. It's always day one.
Yeah. Well, I was going to, the upset yesterday, Furman and Princeton, obviously. I was going to tell Mark, too, Rick Barnes, the Tennessee basketball coach, is a good friend. He was at Texas for several years when I worked for the Big 12 in the Southwest Conference. Really one of the nicest people in the world. And he was coaching against my old travel roommate at Mississippi State, Bob Marlin, who was a basketball manager at Mississippi State and almost came back in the latter stages to win. Really great ball game. But no, like you're saying, Rob, one that stands out, I don't know why I worked about 4 Final Fours, but David Housel was hiring Cliff Ellis as a basketball coach at Auburn, and David was working in the media office, and he said, Bo, I want you to wait down here. He said, I've got to be out on the court, but I was doing credential distribution. He said, when Cliff Ellis comes up, nobody knows about it, but he said, come grab me on the court. So I guess indirectly had a hand in Cliff Ellis getting hired as basketball coach at Auburn. But
wow, thank you.
Like that. And Bill Clinton coming on the court when Arkansas knocked off Duke in '94. It was such a Mark's probably watched that game. Y'all did. It was really like the whole place was blue except for like probably 300 Arkansas fans. All the media very pro Duke, and then Nolan and the Razorbacks kind of came in and spoiled everything. But it was a really great basketball atmosphere.
Yeah, it is incredible, the Final Four. And Mark, Tennessee's got a tough matchup coming up with Duke. But, Tennessee with Rick Barnes is always in the mix of teams that have a chance to win it. Tell me how you're going to beat Duke. I'm going to make you Rick Barnes right now. I'm not going to age you. I'm just going to say you're Rick Barnes. Get these guys ready. Tell me how they're going to be, clogging and just raising hell and and yodeling up there because you beat Duke, because that would be big. They're still Duke. There's still a 16-point, 167, Boone and Crockett score, 300-pound buck that you've been trying to kill for the last 7 years. And finally, the property owner has said, you can take that buck this year if you see him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you just got to you get back to the basics of what made you win the whole year. I mean, you got to be the same team you were. The problem is that when we lost our, starting point guard to an ACL injury, we've had to, pivot right into something else. So again, I think a lot of it goes through Vescovi. We have a lot of very talented and very athletic bigs, a lot of 5-stars. Some of them are a little young, but it doesn't matter if you're young or old. You just got to do what you've done to get you there, right, to the dance, so to speak. And I think you got to attack the rim. You just got to attack the rim. You got to play aggressive. And for us, though, it seems like a lot of it comes through our 3-point shooting. And if we're high on 3-point shooting, I like our day. If we're not, it's going to be a close game. So Duke is always going to be Duke, but they're a little different. They don't have Coach K anymore. They lost the GOAT that was there. So I think when you get in these tournaments, anybody can win at any time, right? I mean, it's just that's the craziness about it. But I think you just got to do and be who you've been all year, and try not to be somebody else. Just go out and attack the basket, and try to win.
Yeah. Well, who was the old coach of Princeton, guys? Pete Carrillo?
Pete Carrillo.
Yeah, Pete Carrillo, yeah. It was him or Judd Heathcote, former Michigan State coach, that looked like, remember Mel from Mel's Diner? I always think about those guys, man. All right, William Halliday is, there you are, William, has joined us now, the intern, Billy Ray Valentine. Looking good, Billy Ray, from down to the Auburn Plainsman, first-year writer. True Grit journalism in training for the Auburn Plainsman. William, we got Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Big Orange. Mark Hamm from Knoxville. Bo Carter out in the Metroplex, Dallas-Fort Worth, Arlington, Mansfield, and points unknown. By the way, Bo, is it every Wednesday afternoon when they do the cattle They run the cattle through downtown, the streets of Fort Worth? What time on Wednesdays?
I think 3 o'clock. They're looking for drovers, actually, Rob, if you want to come out here and apply. And William needs
William.
The other day, they're short on drovers, so they need some people with cattle prods and whips to get it. And these longhorns are about 1,000 pounds each, with horns about 8 feet long. So you have to be careful.
Hey, William, that might be a great story for you to do, to be a drover out there. That reminds me of a story I read in the Wall Street Journal. It was one of the big papers about 4 years ago. The Saudi Arabia national government was running an advertisement for beheaders, $150 a head. I'm like going, holy shnikes. That would be tough work, Heads up, everybody. But anyway, Billy Ray Valentine, the intern, are you in the great city of Birmingham, or did you head back to the Plains? What's your status? Because if you're covering these games, but we're going to go to a break. When we come back, William, we're ready to hear the experience of a fan, of a journalist there at the big dance, Onions, right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with a great lineup here. Bo Carter, Jim Nance, Bill Rafferty, Mark Hamm, William Halliday. No. Tell you what, if I had Bill Rafferty on here, him and Jim Nance and Grant Hill, Tracy Wolfson on courtside, she is fantastic. Love to have her on the show as well. Bill Rafferty, you know what Bill Rafferty says when someone hits one high, he posts up, hits the three-pointer when it's a tight game. I love it. He goes, onions. He's got onions. Wow. I love that one. But William, talk about Legacy Arena, being there, March Madness. You got your press credentials. You go through the process. How close to the court were you?
Okay, so last night I didn't get press credentials because our sports reporter actually went instead of me. But I actually went with friends that asked me last minute, and we got some $100 tickets that was right at the top, last row. So
that's the picture you sent last night. My apologies. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what were you thinking there?
So it was fun. I'd say it was really fun when we started hitting some threes. Trey Donaldson, the freshman, hit 3 in a row, and we got out to like an 18, 17-point lead. But then for some reason, Auburn, they started giving that lead back and just weren't making shots. I think they went on a pretty long scoring drought, but they started to make it close, but they were able to pull out in the end with some nice shots in the end. So that was good to see. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, Bo and Mark, you watch these teams, they get a 17-point lead, and all of a sudden it's a 2 or 3 point game or you're trailing. Do y'all remember basketball 20, 30 years ago, that happening? You got a 17-point lead on somebody. You had to really work at it to lose it, Bo. Can you remember? We all do. I don't remember that happening, but it happens remember what Iowa did against Michigan State in the last few seconds? I think that got in everybody's minds last night in that Auburn game.
The 3-point goal in '87 really changed it. Yeah, changed everything. I guess for the better. I saw the other night somebody was 5 out of, I think Northern Kentucky was 5 out of 33 from 3 against, against Houston. That might have won the game for them. But no, the 3-point goal definitely changed it. People are really, they teach the baseball pass, which, the famous Christian Leitner from Grand Hill throw that one year where he hit the last second shot to beat Kentucky. So, the fast break's been in, I think Marshall or Drake invented the fast break like in the 1930s or whatever, but it's gone to new dimensions in the 2020s.
Mark, when you're watching the game, how comfortable are you if Tennessee's up 15 or 20 points in the first half?
Most of the time I'm well, but again, it becomes one of those things that you become complacent. But I think it's different. I think it's different in the dance because everybody's fighting for their lives. I know, during the regular season, I'm not saying that you're not trying to win every game because you are. But there's just a different sense of urgency, when you're in the dance, because at that point, you've got to win. You've got to win or you're going home. So I think people are just putting that they're not giving their all. They're not giving their all for Tennessee, on every game. But when you're in the dance, it's life or death. If you lose, you're done. So I don't know. I think people can come back. If you're not hitting shots, I get it. But man, people just seems like there's just the game is elevated. Everybody is just laying it all out on the court. Like they should be, but it's just a different situation. I don't ever get really I don't ever get secure in the fact that we're up 15 because if somebody goes on a run, starts hitting much threes, you see it all the time in the dance. They can come back and win.
Yeah, and the lead with the 3-point shot has changed everything. It seems like everything is pass it inside, kick it back out. You even saw it yesterday in some games where guys had what looked to be an easy layup, but they kick it back out to try to get a 3-pointer. William, you're a lot younger, watching basketball. That's really all that is what you see. Were you there for any of the Alabama game yesterday against Texas A&M Corpus Christi?
I was not able to see.
William, guys, is it fair to say that Bo Carter,
That was tough,
and
but
so you weren't there for any of that game? Of the Alabama game? Okay. William's locking up here on us. But, one thing, Bo and Mark, that Texas A&M Corpus Christi can say to the Texas A&M fans that they know, it will probably drive them crazy. At least we won a game in the NCAA tournament. Mark and Bo, how you think the A&M fans? I mean, do they feel like kindred brothers, Bo? I mean, out there in Texas, or are they rivals?
No, they're pardon me, they're sort of the little brother of A&M. I think Corpus Christi was a junior college at one time and became a 4-year, like in the 80s or early 90s. No, you're right. They made it. They lost to Texas Southern last year. They won this year, but A&M, big A&M losing to Penn State remind me a lot of that A&M Vanderbilt game in the SEC tournament. Rob, Penn State came out firing for threes like A&M did and just blew Vanderbilt away, and A&M just never was in the ball game.
Yeah, A&M. It's like all the lobbying to get respect and all they've gone through this season. Mark is out of the witness protection program.
That's right.
Wearing his Tennessee Big Orange.
That's right.
Ladies and gentlemen, clad the national champions in orange and white. William, this is Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report up in Knoxville. Mark, let me just put things in perspective. I grew up with William's father, Bubba Halliday, in Memphis since kindergarten. Their family, to say that they are Tennessee fans is like saying that the redwoods and the sequoias are tall trees. They are as orange and white as it gets. And William the Wiser, Pliny the Elder, William the Wiser is a freshman at Auburn, went to MUS, freshman at Auburn, writing for the Auburn student paper. Mark has a son, William, who's a junior at Tennessee, working with the coaches, media relations and all like that. Now he's going to be working for the Braves this summer. So come on this show, and we will try to introduce you to the best people out there. William, if you get a chance, go to Dallas, Fort Worth, the Metroplex, meet with Bo Carter, Ken Capps, Billy Sure-Shot, Dave Cody, all these guys. It's what Will is doing, but it is incredible to watch. And people say, where do you get all these guests, Rob? Well, I'm very blessed to, but they're relationships that I've had, and I've been so fortunate to have along the way. And never, ever miss a moment, William, ever, to thank people and say, what can I do to help? Don't ever miss the day to do that. Today is St. Patrick's Day. Don't miss an opportunity to buy a good-looking lady a cold beer or some bangers and mash. Don't miss an opportunity to curry and foster good, positive relations. My good friend Dave Baker, who's listening right now out at the Penal Farm, he's the head chef out there, always tells you, show up early, because 95% of life is showing up with a positive attitude, a couple of extra boxes of shells, some walking around money, a smile, and making sure everybody else around you is wanting to do better. But William, if you were writing a story today about what you witnessed last night, Bo, give him the lead, or give us your lead. I want Bo to grade you.
Tigers win first round matchup in a nail biter that comes down to just something big. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's a good lead.
What do you think, Bo?
Good lead. They had to beat the whole McCaffrey family. Fran McCaffrey's two sons were playing for Iowa, and then of course his brother Billy played for Duke and Vanderbilt. So there's a ton of basketball history going back. The Tigers took on the Big Ten and prevailed. Yeah.
Mark, you're looking at young William down here, William the Wiser. Everyone in his family. I knew his grandfather quite well, Bill Halliday, and friends with Dr. Monger. Just two people that were just incredible. I've growing up as a kid, their knowledge of Tennessee, they knew about Tennessee football. It's like watching, the late Jimmy Rogers, who was from Demopolis, Alabama, over in the Black Belt with the bow tie, the great commodities and Wall Street guy that rode a motorcycle around the world. That's how much they knew about not just Tennessee, but Southern football and college football tradition. What would you say to William, having watched what young Will, your son, is doing, climbing up the ladder? What advice would you give to William? You're old enough to be his dad. He's young enough to be your son.
Well,
that makes sense.
I think it's one of those things that's like anything. I think it's a lot of business is about relationships. I think that whether it's in business or it's in anything you do in life, it's about relationships. And, my son Will is a very kind, gentle soul that is just a good kid. It's always yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I mean, he's been doing that since he was young. And that goes a long way. I mean, we get people that comment on that all the time. I mean, unsolicited, they'll call and say, boy, your son is so respectful. It says yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. People just do that these days. And, that's just kind of not anything I did. It was probably his mother influenced that more than I did, but I'll give her the credit. But it's one of those things, I've told him, I said, just go and meet everybody you can meet. So, he decided to change his major and got into sports management, and he gets an email and they said, hey, we want you to come drive the coaches' wives around. He's like, man, I really want to go to the games. Like, well, send me the email. Well, it came from Josh Heupel's executive assistant. So, he's over there hanging out with Josh Heupel's executive assistant. And he was over there last week getting a reference letter, and the coach walked by and he's talking to the coach. I'm like, dude, like, this is great. Just get, and then all the coaches' wives kept, telling everybody how nice he was and how great he was. Now he's getting on with the Braves, for the summer. And I'm like, when you go down there, just go and volunteer and meet everybody you can meet. So I think a lot of it is just, developing those relationships, because your network does mean a lot, when you meet people, but also when you're there, have a really good positive attitude and be the guy that gets those first and be the guy that leaves last, and just show them that you're going to outwork everyone.
Yeah. And William, in what Mark does for a living, hard work is an understatement, but you've got a lot of skills. And Bo, what would you throw in for him? Because bottom line is, if we can impact William in a positive way, that saves journalism, doesn't it? I mean, I'm not being but you can't just try to get it first. You got to get it right.
I like William's attitude. He'll cover gymnastics. In fact, William, don't forget you got to propose to Sonny Lee pretty soon. I bring that up on Mark. We're trying to get him to propose to Sonny before she takes off for Olympic training at
more gold.
I think they have the gymnastics championship this week, as a matter of fact, somewhere. Yeah. But no, William's got a good attitude. He knows I think his writing and grammar skills are fantastic. MUS education. If you'd gone to Vanderbilt for a year, maybe, or Tennessee, he would have helped his. No, Rob, our whole family is from Auburn, except for about three of us or whatever. So we're very big War Eagle fans and have good friends at Tennessee. But the positive attitude, and William's a really good networking person. I think goes down and meets people and has a smile on his face. And again, William said please and thank you and yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. And that could go a long way. Well,
if you ever meet his dad, oh my God. I mean, everybody loves Bubba. I mean, he's kind of legendary from the dorm up there at Tennessee. He used to, Mark, and y'all, and Bo, you remember Fuad Revez, the great field goal kicker. Yeah. He would get out of his window his freshman year, Fuad! I mean, nobody else does that except Bubba. But hey, how about this from Dave Cody, the sports anchor emeritus, KTBC Channel 7 in Austin, Texas, sends me this text just now. Where is the green on anyone? And I'm like, of all people, a TV man, I tried to watch this attempt to show the green derby hat. You can't see it. It's invisible. But we would disappear. And but anyway, he said about John Ward, met him in Memphis at alumni banquet, and Johnny Majors too, covering sports as Dave did for 40 plus years, working with Phil Snow and Jim Fife, learning the things. And I'll say this too, William, when you have an opportunity to go to touchdown club meetings, quarterback club meetings, whether it's Bo Carter, Mark Hamm, me, Buddy Martin, whatever, take every opportunity you can to take notes from the older, writers' experience, because they are a treasure. I mean, if you could sit down Mark is a great reader. Bo is. Could you imagine if you could go back in time? And my mother at 88 reads 2 books a week minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine if you could go back in time to sit out on the front porch veranda with Samuel Clemens, drinking a cold beer for an afternoon, watching a sunset, what you could learn? William, you are on the tip of the spear, man. Writing for the Plainsman and for people that write for the Daily Beacon in Knoxville or whatever, you're the next generation of writers. Make people think, challenge them, and you know what? Don't be afraid to be criticized. Free speech. That's number one to writing a story, because we got a couple of minutes before the break. We got another segment after that. But William, are you fired up about a career in writing and understanding how you can be doing TV? You're going to be doing radio. You're going to be doing everything, not just writing.
Yeah, I'm very excited just seeing a bunch of writers around me and what they're doing, and it's something I've really wanted to do growing up. Even though God didn't necessarily bless me with a great athletic ability, but I can definitely write about sports, something I love, and I'm just really excited to do anything that's a part of that.
You a tennis player?
I played a little bit, not as great as my dad or brother, but I'm decent.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. When you go to these, are you going to be there tomorrow night at Legacy Arena?
I don't think I am. I got invited to go to that game the other night, or last night, but I don't think I'll be able to go to that game.
You'll be covering games. You could go to Kansas City or whatever, but just make it just a number one priority when you're there. Go up and introduce yourself to the writers, everyone that you can, and get their business cards. Ask for their business card first. Don't give them yours. Get theirs first. And then, oh, by the way, here's one of mine. But, man, I can think about people that I've met. I'll never get it out of my head how cool it was, Bo, after an Auburn, Florida game, when David Housel let me go out there and opened up the trunk for the post-game party outside the press box, and with a man named Jack Harrison of the Gainesville Sun. I remember those stories as an 18-year-old kid like they were yesterday. And I was also remember how angry Charlie Pell was because he didn't think that field goal. He thought it was good when Auburn won 14-12. Anyway, we're going to be right back. Roundtable, Friday edition, in 25 seconds. All right, let me say something about one of our new sponsors. You talk about relationships. Relationships are everything. Eleanor Maynard, 4th generation Memphis realtor, 3rd generation Hobson realtor. Okay. In 2022, top 5% out of 4,600 realtors. If you are looking to move to Memphis, we have listeners all over the place moving from Memphis, looking to buy or sell a house. Make it simple on yourself. Put yourself in a position to win. Recruit the 5 stars. Get Eleanor Maynard and her team at Hobson Realty. The hyperlink is on our website, www.sidelines.live. I've known Eleanor 12 years and her husband, Barry. They are both in real estate. Barry Maynard, Eleanor Maynard at Hobson Realty. Eleanor Maynard, again, top 5% out of 4,600 realtors in 2022. We're going to bring her on the show next week and let her talk a little about what she does, but it's relationships. Don't pull your hair out. Don't go crazy when you're looking to buy or sell a house in Memphis, moving to Memphis. Just remember, it's all going to start with one phone call to Eleanor Maynard, Hobson Realty in Memphis. Sidelines official realtor. Mark, listening to what William is saying and Bo, all of us, I feel great about where we're going. He gets it, it also starts, with the home training, you get that. And he's got a great gene pool. But Mark, we don't get the Knoxville News Sentinel. We don't get the commercial appeal on the Press Scimitar. And Dave Cody's talking about George Lapidus, great writer for the Memphis Press Scimitar for a long time. And he passed away, I guess, in 2016 or 2017. As people would say about that man, my friends at Channel 3 television, when he went down there to be sports director, there's nobody in the world that has a Rolodex like George Lapidus. But he took that writing and those relationships and transferred it to sports radio and television. That's the model for a lot of the shows today. Paul Feinbaum grew up in East Memphis, went to Christian Brothers High School, White Station, Tennessee. God, it's just amazing when you think about it. But Mark, I'll start with you. Where do you get your information on a daily basis? When you get up in the morning, aside from reading financial reports and market updates, do you print things off, or do you get online and get your magnifying glasses on to read that small print? Because it's designed, it's almost like hieroglyphics. It's so small.
Yeah, I typically go online and I did a lot of reading online, but you're right. I do have to wear some glasses now to see some of it. So but
it's
I mean,
small.
that's where I go for most of it. And then, I have but really for some of the sports stuff, I'll be honest with you, my son is really into it. So, he'll text me 2 or 3 times a day with updates and things that are going on. It's almost like he gets those, reports before anybody else does. So anyway, he's kind of my main source.
Bo, the old Skyriders tour, the airplane, was that a DC-10?
Yeah.
Was a prop that used to fly? And I've heard stories about, William, there used to be something called the Skyriders tour. And before football season, a bunch of sports writers would get on a plane, and the pilot was, a guy from Hogan's Heroes, flying the thing. But I heard they had a few close calls where they came in clipping trees and landed on one wheel. It was Mardi Gras in the air, but a lot of great memories of that. Bo, where do you get your information as a lifelong writer? I mean, there's so many places to get it from. Where do you start? What's the first thing you do to get your information?
Hate to say it, I'm old school. I get the Dallas Morning News, which they had.
Nothing
one
wrong
time
with
they had about a 14-page sports section. Mark's probably seen it, and William online. It's down to about 6 or 8 pages now. But they run. They're the kings of agate type. They've got every bike race and every high school baseball score for 500 miles here. But they do. They've got some really good writers and columnists. And they do some in-depth stories or whatever too. A lot of unfortunately more pro sports than I like to read, but they do a great job of college coverage. And then ESPN.com, everywhere, 24/7 sports, wherever I can find it.
Yeah, because there is a lot. William, what about you? Where do you get your information? I mean, you've grown up almost with a lot of the newspapers in the rearview mirror.
Yeah, the two that I mainly get are ESPN.com and CBS Sports I've been reading recently. And then some 24/7 sports as well. Those are probably 3 biggest that I get my sports from.
Yeah. So again, a lot of these sites, Bo, there's a 700-word limit. A lot of the best columns are 3,500, 4,000 plus words. Sometimes, and William, I remember when I was your age writing for the Plainsman at 19. It was like, God, I mean, it's almost like taking the old drink of water from a fire hydrant. Where do you start? Bo, how many seconds did it take you to determine your lead, your bump in that story?
Yeah, usually a couple, sometimes an hour, most time, 15, 20 minutes. But that, as we talked to William, that's the that's the eye catcher besides the who, what, when, where, why, and how or whatever. But especially for student paper. And by the way, plug for William. I got the Plainsman website, so I get the Plainsman update every day. Very well done. Very to see the William Halliday byline in there. But no, just like you were saying, in Mark's use of this, especially with Rocky Top, when you're writing for a feature fan based deal, you have to come up with something imaginative and something that will draw attention right away.
Yeah. And Mark, Mark's big deal is the tailgate scene. He's got a barbecue team, in Memphis in May, and they've been second place before, and they're not corporate. But did you use Cattleman's, Mark? I must ask you.
Every bit.
If you don't use, because if you don't use Cattleman's, good luck. But Mark, when you're reading a story, and we got a lot of people who are listening that, and I think about look at this stuff from Dave Cody. Some of the greatest scribes, Benny Marshall, Philip Marshall, of course, his son, who I absolutely think is one of the best. John Pruitt, former sports editor of the Huntsville Times. And this is something Mark and William and Bo, I met him June 15th of 2021 at Chappie's Deli in Auburn up on Glen Avenue. And he was autographing copies of his new book from the back booth at Chappie's. David Housel was. John Pruitt's in there. I went up and introduced myself to him, and he was shocked that I knew his name. I'm like, Mr. Pruitt, I mean, you got to think about it, man. We grew up, we had the Stones, the Who, Leonard Skinner, Molly Hatchet, Meatloaf, Ted Nugent, and we had the great sports writers, the great sports editors. I mean, that's what we did. And had him on the show, and could have had him on for 2 days. It was incredible. I can't wait. I'd love to get him back. You knew John Pruitt, didn't you, Bo?
Oh, yeah. We're on a Zoom call every week with some of the SEC people. And one of the all-time best writers in the history of Alabama sports.
Yeah, and I wish, it makes me mad because they always say, nobody knows who I am. Yeah, we do. Hell, we don't. We know who you are. And Phil Snow, Herb Winches, Scott Hunter used to fly his plane around. But that was fun going on there. But, you just think about it. Y'all chime in when you want to. We need, history, traditions, heroes. I think Haywood Harris said it at Tennessee. Tradition never graduates, William. How much, William, history do you know about the SEC? And if you don't, go back and get that book, The Greatest Plays in SEC History. What are some books, Bo, that you might recommend he get? Because the more literate you are, you're like an Olympic athlete. You didn't just start training 2 weeks before you went to the trials.
One, William, it's day out of date, 70 years old, but you can find in the library a book called The Tumult and the Shouting by Grantland Rice. It talks about he'd have Babe Ruth and people over at his apartment having a few pops day before, day after the World. Mark's familiar with this stuff or whatever too, but he and Bobby Jones were out trading golf stories. And I think Grantland Rice had the great line. Mark's probably heard this before, and Rob and William, good to listen. 90% of the business done in the United States is transacted on the golf course or whatever too.
Yeah.
So it's that's one good one. Really. Many good books. Dennis Dodd's written 4 or 5. In fact, he helped collaborate with the Big 12 handbook about the best place to eat and visit in the Big 12 cities or whatever. So a lot of there's so many good books out there. There's a plethora of information and history there.
William, you know what you ought to do? That's a great idea. During the summer you can write year round, but what books have you read about the history of college football, basketball, baseball, the South, but nationally? Because the more you stretch your mind, it's never going to revert back to where it used to be. No different than training.
Yeah. My knowledge of history, just of the SEC college stuff, it usually comes from the stories on SEC Network, the SEC story stuff. But I have read one book, I think, on the NBA and just its history, just the different things that have gone there. There was one I remember one sentence that said one part that said that like Wilt Chamberlain, the way he was able to get like 50 points a game was because there was no 3 seconds in the lane.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he was able to stay in the lane the entire time and score. That's why I don't have him as a top 5 player, just because of that. So
I forgot about that. William, you just said, I mean, Mark, Bodie, I'd forgotten there wasn't a 3-second deal because Wilt Chamberlain was like 9 feet tall. Nobody could stop him. He was definitely the original ladies' man, Wilt Chamberlain. Golly, wow. I didn't think about that. No 3-second rule. You know, God. But the more, I tell you what, when you read books about the history of these sports and you go back, can anybody on this panel tell me how many players were on each side of the line of scrimmage at the first ever college football game played November 6th, 1869, Rutgers versus Princeton? 25.
Was it 25, 20 or 25?
25.
Rugby with the
go look at that original painting, the original painting of the first football game. Beano Cook was broadcasting there from Rutgers 6, Princeton 4 in 12 innings. Hell of a deal, man. But you think about that. It was a rugby scrum. That's what it was. I'm fascinated. I'm absolutely fascinated by the history. And Mark, when you grew up watching on TV, and Bo and I, you know, the sports writers weren't out there like they are now. Thank God we got Tony Barnhart, who we're so blessed to have on this show a lot, Mr. College Football on CBS, SEC Network. Now it's the Media Guides. You know Tony Barnhart, Bo.
Very well.
He's as good a guy as you're ever going to find. Come into the Memphis Quarterback Club, Touchdown Club, whatever. He goes out and helps people because he loves the game. Mark, tell me right now, your favorite sports writer or sports writers, the one that you hung on his every column as a young lad growing up in Belfast. I mean, Memphis.
Yeah. I think you would go back to George Lapidus. I mean, when I was living in Memphis, I actually had a press center route. So I was a paper boy, and I would go and the stuff would come in the afternoons, and I'd roll the papers and ride my bike and, you know, throw them. And if there was ever short, I have to go to the store and get one. But, you know, I would read those papers as well. And I thought those were always really good.
My dad, when he was a kid, had 3 jobs in high school. One of them was he had a paper route. He lived in Midtown.
Yep.
The second job he had was he used to set up the bowling pins at the bowling alley. And the third one, I think he used to go around town with an organ, you know, little accordion with a monkey that would like put its hand out. I don't know. I think he's listening right now, Dad. I forgot what your third job was. You may have been Fred Gervin, male prostitute. I don't know. But anyway, William, tell me this. We just got a couple of minutes left. You know, what is your goal when you look out there at what is called journalism today? My friend, the late Mike Fleming, used to say it was reported at 9:23 a.m. yesterday morning that Johnny Journalism passed away. At his bedside was the health of American journalism going forward. What's your goal when you graduate from Auburn with a degree in journalism? What do you want to do? What you see what's going on out there now? Give me your 30-second elevator speech of what you're going to do to make things better.
Yeah. So I actually had this conversation in the car with my friends because we were all I'd probably say to start out, I'd want to go work at a local newspaper, write about sports, whether it starts with beat writing, maybe host a podcast or radio on the side, and then maybe work my way up. Like, I don't know if y'all know Gary Parrish at CBS Sports. He's a
know who he is, yeah.
Yeah. I'd kind of like to do something what he's doing. He started his way in the local newspaper, then got up to like a big sports media site and write for them and do something like college basketball and host a big podcast on the side. So just working my way up the ladder is something I'd like to do.
Yeah, the one thing Gary Parrish has done is worked his ass off. I mean, he has done it. And you know what? It's not luck. Remember the great scene in the movie Trading Places when Winthorpe was there at the club and they said, "Oh, Winthorpe, we need a fourth for squash this afternoon." He goes, "No can do. I've got a date with Penelope." He goes, "Lucky you, Todd." He goes, "It's not luck, Todd." Well, anyway, it's not luck. As David Housel says, luck is when preparation and opportunity come together. I think I'm correct. David from Gordo, Alabama, Jack Sims, Buddy Davidson. You think about this, though, but tell you what, we got a few seconds left. Unbelievable. Mark Hamm, thank you for not coming on video when you were driving, although we have some cup holder people that do have the WeatherTech Cup phone, and they can drive and talk at the same time. So you do it when you're ready, but safety first, please. William, Billy Ray Valentine, Halliday, awesome. William, love having you on here. This is fun. Bo Carter, maybe the most connected man in sports. As Dave Cody says, he goes, he knows everybody. He knew the 11 apostles that lived. You know everybody. Absolutely love having you on here. To everybody listening and to our great sponsors like Eleanor Maynard, Hobson Realty. Check her out. She is Sidelines Realtor. You're moving to Memphis, moving in Memphis, buying, selling a house. Start with a call. Eleanor Maynard, Hobson Realty. She is top 5% out of 4,600. Go with the best. You know what I say about the rest. Hey, we'll see you tomorrow, folks. Until then, happy St. Patrick's Day. Top of the morning to you. We'll see you tomorrow.